Hi, welcome back. I'm your host, Master Sergeant Retired, AnnaMaria Bliven on Veterans Onward to Prosperity, and today's guest is Michael Simon. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everybody.
I just said that you were able to get through your transition. You were a signal sergeant, right?
Correct.
Yeah, what did you do exactly?
Well, my job is I was in the Minnesota Army National Guard, and I call us all the regular Army in a sense. If I was deployed for, we're gone or activated for about a total of 2 years. We got extended our tour in Iraq. My MOS was essentially I was a signal support specialist. That's basically commo or radio operator and so forth. But I did all kinds of different jobs. They kind of when we're on deployments in Iraq and different things, they will put you where they need you if you're as long as you're capable of doing the job. My favorite job when I was deployed was the last 3 or 4 months when I was the lead RTO for my shift. And what that means is I communicated with all the convoys that went in and out of our base and also with our watchtowers and our security around the point. I essentially kind of ran the office and the communication between them and everything else. Why my supervisors, lieutenant, and so forth, they were out, doing what they needed to do, and I was the front line with everybody on the shift that had questions or anything else. So,
Wow, that's a very important position.
yep. Well, essentially, I mean, yes, being a weapon or ammunition and thing is very important, but to me, communication is the second most important thing. If you can't communicate with somebody that's not right there and they don't know what's going on, that's where accidents and tragedies happen, which we've seen in the past, present, and unfortunately, we could see it in the future. So,
Right. So let's keep away from those accidents and keep
yeah,
that communication flowing. Basically, this is what you're still doing with your enterprise. I'm excited to talk about your enterprise. But before we get to that, let's turn the clock back to when you were putting your boots away and hanging up your uniform for the last time.
okay.
How did that go?
Well, my story maybe it's a little bit different. I joined the military a little later than the typical 18 to 20-year old. I grew up in central Missouri, and back in the days, my parents kind of said, you got to go to university or college, or otherwise you might have limited options, which is fine. And so I followed suit, and that's kind of what a lot of my friends did, not everybody. So I came up here to Minnesota, went to school. I ended up staying here because I like some things up here. I didn't know what I was going to do. I went into corporate sales because I didn't want to sit behind a desk all day. I did that until I got, a few years down the road. I decided to go get my master's because I'd spent a semester abroad. I love to travel. And when to transfer some of my marketing and sales skills. And about the time I was finishing that, we had a little event called 9/11, which I think kind of like certain events, we all know exactly where we were when we became notified of something not so good was happening.
Right.
I made a decision then. I said, what have I done for my community and our country? And really, I hadn't done a whole lot. And I always thought of joining. So within a year, this pushed me over the top to do it, which I'm glad I did. So I joined the National Guard. Military recruiters are fine. They may not tell you everything, but I kind of knew in the back of my head. That was about the time Iraq was ramping up and we'd been in Afghanistan for a while that I would have been going somewhere. Well, luckily, I guess I got to go to Iraq. Back in we started in '05 to train up, and then we got there in spring of '06, and then we ended up getting extended. I came home, went back to my civilian job, and back to the drills, which everything was fine. There were some issues like with PTSD and maybe stress and everything. I had a short misdiagnosis, well, more a couple of months of the VA. They were doing everything, I guess, everything they could, most of them, and they found the third largest tumor. It was, frontal lobe in the history of the VA. And my behavior, you know, not my intentions really changed. I mean, our lives, my wife and I's lives went upside down. And when they finally did the MRI, they found the tumor. They got it out just in time. It was benign, but it was so large it had some life changing effects. I was blessed or lucky to get service connectivity, and a couple of things happened during that. One, I my military career was pretty much over in a sense that I couldn't really get promoted or reclass because wanted to do some other things because I wasn't deployable. So I kind of made a decision then and there. I said I'll finish it until they get me medically retired by the vice, some medical officer, excuse me. But it's time to move on and do volunteer and advocacy stuff, in that sense.
Mhm.
And then that time, I also made another decision once I got service connected. I said, you know what? I played the corporate game for all these years in sales, which is fine. But I've always kind of had that entrepreneurial drive. I said, it's time to do something different because I had an opportunity. And I did a couple of different businesses. We did a family barbecue sauce. We got up to a fairly decent level. I learned a lot. If it was for wife's aunt and uncle, they ended up selling the recipe, but didn't necessarily get wealthy from it, but I learned a heck of a lot. Secondly, then I marketed pet insurance for 3 years. I love animals. I love dogs. I got a service dog now. And that's where I built relationships with veterinary hospitals, why they should have their clients should have their pets insured. And so, because they would become their best clients, because it's not how much it's gonna to heal Fluffy, it's what can you do for Fluffy. I mean,
Mhm.
they're like our children. They're part of the family.
Oh yeah.
So I did that, and right around the 3 year mark, which wasn't that long after we adopted our little girl, Kennedy, I had a breakthrough seizure, so I had to step down. And again, no hard feelings, no burnt bridges, no nothing. It just I couldn't fulfill the duties that was required. I mean, I was an independent contractor for a company, so I didn't know what I was going to do for a couple years. I said, okay, I did consulting, did different odds and ends here and there, but I also started really focusing on my veterans advocacy and citizens with disabilities. It was volunteer, but it was some great experience. I contacted our state legislatures and everything. So I got to do a lot of that. I mean, I got a real passion. I mean, yeah, there's some things that, we've had to fight as a family for us, but there's a lot of other folks, veterans slash citizens with disabilities that have a lot worse than we do. And so I was pretty darn passionate about that. And it all comes to like being a soldier or a Marine or whatever. You have to fight for what your passion or what you feel is right. And so I learned a lot from that. Then a couple years down the road, I had a buddy who just kept contacting me, an old coworker, and yeah, you got to take a look at this test-based nutrition thing. I said, no, I've done that. That the direct sales business in the past. I said, not interested. And finally, he was persistent, and it would have been nice to see him. So I sat on and had a cup of coffee with him, and he explained the program. And I said, okay, here's the deal. I will try the products, and if it works for me, then I'll look at becoming a partner, which is exactly what happened. Because it goes back to the barbecue sauce and the pet insurance. I mean, besides the family barbecue sauce recipe and then the pet insurance, I will only market or sell somebody or consult on it and if I have to believe in the product or service. Otherwise, it's impossible to do. And and now that I've gotten a little bit older and wiser, I can tell when somebody doesn't believe in necessarily what they're doing. So that's how I got into this, because the product and the program has worked wonders for me, and I've seen it work wonders for other, and that's what I'm going to promote. How do I go it? And like I say, I'm only going to promote what I think's the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're interested to know a little bit more about the test-based nutrition, especially in the fact that we are in this pandemic period of time, and health is at the for the front of our minds, and very much a part of the days and times in which we live. But we're going to do that right after these messages.
Absolutely.